everyone. Welcome to the most recent live stream. We're getting started here on Twitch. Most recent stream of Storm Chasers, a hockey podcast. It's Gino and Sandro as usual. If you're watching with us on Twitch right now, that's super cool. Drop us a follow. You can find past episodes on our Spotify and YouTube pages. So anywhere that you watch the podcast, drop a subscription, drop a follow, some likes, comments. We want to interact with y'all as we keep going here, ushering in the 2026 off season. Gino and I have just been watching all the trades go down, and we want to unpack everything here. But I think first we wanted to get into a little bit of the parade celebrations and unpack that. Gino, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I think Stanley Cup summer. I think the parade's a great place to start. Um, did I mean I saw all kinds of clips and highlights, and I think there's a lot to touch on. First, I think we should really praise all the Caniacs out there that showed up. I mean, I think it was unbelievable. I think they said 150,000 plus people, and I know the
Either
expectation
that or
was
180, man. It was up
yeah,
there.
it was a lot. Um, and when you look at previous Stanley Cup champion parades, in bigger markets, obviously they have bigger turnouts. It wasn't like a record-breaking turnout, but when you consider the size of our market and just hockey in Raleigh in general, I think it was extremely impressive and really cool to see how much support the Canes had locally.
I agree, and even to that same sort of idea of the turnout versus the city size. I saw a stat or a graphic this morning that was compared per capita turnout. So it ranked higher than both of the Florida parades. So there is that. I think it was awesome. The city rallied behind the Canes. The Canes rallied behind the city, and it looked like a ton of fun. I genuinely wish I could have been there.
Man, me too. Did you see the Rantanen jersey everyone was stomping on?
Oh yeah, that was funny. I like how petty Canes fans been about the Rantanen saga. Clearly we won out. I think everyone's gonna admit that we won out, but that was annoying, man. We put a lot of faith in bringing Rantanen to the Hurricanes, and we don't let that go.
Yeah, no, honestly, one thing I don't think is talked about enough with the Rantanen, actually, I'm going to refer to it as the Stankoven trade.
Yes, sir.
Um, but to be honest, one thing I don't think a lot of people think about is the way the Canes really came out on top was the size of the contracts they signed from the players they got there versus what we would have paid Rantanen. Uh, it's just a classic Eric Tulsky move, keeping our contracts low, keeping our assets high. And I can't believe we signed Stankoven and Hall for that matter for the prices we did.
Well, yeah, I think if
Um,
you look at it, we signed Stankoven for exactly half the AAV that it took to get Rantanen to sign an extension. That, that
yeah,
that's pretty
and for
good on
six
our part.
years.
Yes, exactly.
He's 22 or 23 or something like that.
Yeah,
My God, like that with the cap going up, the cap's supposed to go up like exponentially over the next 5 to 10 years. Like that contract is only going to continue to look better and better, and it feels like a steal right now.
yeah.
So,
And then
to
him
me,
paired with
it's
Jackson Blake too. Both of those
yeah,
contracts are legit. Those are big time signings that are going to pay dividends for the Canes over the next 5 years. I think Jackson Blake is
absolutely.
just now dipping into his extension going into this season. Incredible stuff. A GM masterclass by Eric Tulsky. And I think speaking of that, Eric Tulsky did the fun signing of Nick Delorier in front of the crowd. What do you think of that?
I mean, I know you wanted that. I was looking forward to it too. I think it's a wonderful signing, especially when we look at the way the conference is stacking up next year. When we think about playing teams like Florida or honestly even Philly for that matter, there's a couple teams. That's
The
it's nice to
Blue
have someone that we
Jackets,
can suit up.
yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. And to get him for the price we got him, for not just for a multi-year deal, I think it's such a wonderful signing. We're probably not going to see him play very much, but just having that kind of guy ready to go is so important. And I think even just from the short stint he's been on the Hurricanes, I think we've seen like a really big locker room presence
Oh yeah, he's been
from
there
Delorier.
every step of the way in the parade. Delorier has been involved, and it's awesome. Um, you look at the celebration, right? He was one of the early guys to go in lifting the cup, but then also like at Teats and Raleigh, man, you see him going crazy with the boys. I love it. My biggest thing that I hope for with the Delorier sightings is a couple more rounds of Olivier versus Delorier. You know,
Yeah.
I want that big time.
Yeah, I do too. I think, I like that we're keeping that old style of hockey around. I think Rod likes it. I think Rod really likes Delorier. I think he probably had a factor in convincing Tolsky that that's a guy he wants back in that locker room for the next couple of years. So
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
was I was I can't even remember the last time. I don't even know if that's ever happened if a player's been signed at the parade. That might be a first in NHL history. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I can't remember a time that happened, and I think it was a really cool moment for Tulski to kind of share that with that many fans. It just how incredible.
Yeah.
Another
Yeah.
thing I wanted to touch on was the Did you hear the Jordan Stahl chant that who was it Aho kind of brought up at the end to close it out? He's here, he's there, he's every
Yeah.
fucking where.
Yeah.
Jordan Stahl. I love that. I love that.
Oh man, I love the Ted Lasso reference. It's such a good show.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, Roy Kent
Also,
too. One of my favorite
yeah.
characters in that show. So no, it's hilarious. I also have. It's been really funny to see Sebastian Aho sort of come out of his shell during the celebration. Because like
He
it's
felt a little reserved still, yeah,
yeah,
but definitely you saw it.
yeah, you get to see his personality. He's like normally so even keeled, just like the professional hockey player. So it's been good to see like that side of the team come out. One clip that I saw that was really funny was Taylor Hall talking about how they knew they were going to beat the Canadians, and that it was he found it comical that people thought that Ottawa or Philadelphia were going to beat the Canes, and like that was the vibe or feeling in the locker room. And I think that's hilarious because that is not something they ever would have come out and said during the playoff run. I don't know if you saw that clip, but it is hilarious.
I actually didn't see that clip. I did hear though that a couple of the Canes players came out and said, obviously prior to the finals, but the first three rounds that Ottawa, our first round was actually the most difficult. And you know, I don't. So the fact that we just swept through the first two rounds, we lost three games the whole time. I
Yeah.
just unbelievable performance. I love that they made Rod take his shirt off again for the
Oh my
cup lift
gosh.
at the parade as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It's.
I
Go ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I think Rod's wife is probably pretty upset with him taking his shirt off now all the time because all those hockey girls are probably falling in love with
Oh my
Rod.
gosh. Yeah. Who isn't? Who isn't? He is the king of Carolina Hurricanes hockey.
I cannot believe he got snubbed from the Hockey Hall of Fame once again.
Oh my
I
gosh.
cannot believe it.
Are we wanting to transition to that discussion now, or are there any
Well,
other
it's
parade
kind of part of the
highlights?
parade. I feel like
Yeah.
it's part of the parade because I've seen a lot of clips of people editing the Rantanen jersey to be a Ron Francis jersey. I don't know if you know about all the drama uh, behind that necessarily, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought it was
that's
kind of
when Ron
funny, man.
Francis was sort of ousted. That's when the takeover of Rod sort of happened, right? Like that's the history of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
okay.
think a lot of people are speculating because he's the head
Of the
chairman
Hockey
essentially
Hall of
of the
Fame, he is pool.
exactly. And I think a lot of people are speculating he has a little bit of a bitterness for Brendan Moore now, but I
That'd be
don't know. I don't know
crazy.
how true that is, but I do find it wild that he didn't get inducted. Obviously, I hope he joins next year. I think he's the biggest snub right now ever
Yeah,
to not have it, considering his accolades. When you look at not just Stanley Cups and points, but the awards he won as a player as well. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that he hasn't somehow made it in there yet, especially when he had the year that he had here. So I really hope, I think the NHL is getting a lot of backlash for him not being in, and I really hope he gets his flowers next year.
Well, it was just a really bad time to snub him, I think, especially with the Canes having won the Stanley Cup. And you just look at the dudes that have gotten in, right? And so Kachuk, Keith Kachuk is like the perfect example from this crop. He he doesn't have the resume or like the experience, the Selkie Awards, the Stanley Cups that Ron does. Yet he's still making it in. That's wild to me. I'm just not sure what else Rod could have done, but I also don't think it really is a big deal to him right now in the moment. I think his focus is still on the Canes, but you can tell he wants to get in. Like when he talks about it, you can tell it's a whole vibe shift, and um, it it's just
Well, as a
it's a
Canes fan, we want to see him there,
yeah,
right?
100%.
Like,
He the what he is to I said it longer than a lot of like the national media has. Like early into the playoff run when we first started like doing the podcast, I talked about how like Rod Brindamore is Carolina Hurricane hockey. Like it, it's just insane to me that someone who means so much, like a single person who means so much to a franchise, isn't being recognized in the way that a lot of people feel like he should be.
I mean, he's literally the reason we are the team we are right now. I mean, give Eric Tulsky flowers too, but Rod is the guy that, makes the production on ice happen.
Yeah, he's
And
the one that establishes the buy-in and the culture with everyone. I
yeah,
mean,
which is
Eric Tulsky can only do so much as the general manager, and he has done all of that. But if you don't have a coach in there who's going to be able to motivate people and motivate a group of guys who doesn't necessarily have the league wide consider superstar, you got nothing.
yeah, and well, you look at like other coaches around the or I guess we should just say other teams around the NHL. I would argue that the Canes' loyalty to Rod Brindamore is higher than any other team to any other coach.
Yeah.
And I think our culture stands out in the front office as well. I think it's all the way up and down the food chain, and I think that's what makes the Canes so special. Um, I love that. We'll circle back to the parade, I guess, a little bit. But I don't know if you noticed. I think Ehlers said he's staying for the next 5 years.
Oh
And
yeah,
that I
yeah.
think that's huge. I think having these like really skilled, really good players kind of be like, I love it here, and I'm not going anywhere, is a really big step for the Hurricanes when you look at not just this offseason, but I guess going forward, where hopefully we see big players want to
Well,
come to
yeah. It
Carolina because
it
they know that
gives
culture is real.
it gives the Canes a little bit of freedom too, to be like, okay, we have speed and we have people with hands. It's like now we can expand our horizons. Look for a dude that's got a little bit of size, a little bit more scoring ability. It makes their job so much easier to be able to go and add that superstar, like that everyone's been talking about. And I think that's what I love most about the very clear buy-in you have from the players. You look at Keandre Miller during the parade. They are all here to stay, and they love being in North Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the Canes so special. Like you say, we don't have a superstar. It's the tight knit group. It's the culture in the room. It's the buy-in in the room. It's the physical conditioning in the room. I mean, I think it comes down to absolutely everything that this team stands for. And Uh, as a star player, I just don't understand why they've been sleeping on the Canes for so long at this point because I think it's been very clear that they have those edges. And, I'm glad that they're finally getting some of that light uh, just because now we're champions, right? And that's what winning a cup does for teams. You look at teams like Vegas where kind of the same thing happened. They won a cup and everyone kind of wanted to go there. Part of it's probably financial as well, no state tax, but at the end of the day, they weren't a destination that people really wanted to go to until until they were proven successful. And I think the Canes are kind of finding that now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just have to look at too the precedent that the past few years has set for hockey in the South and hockey in non-traditional hockey markets. You have Florida winning 2 Stanley Cups. You have Vegas winning a Stanley Cup. You have North Carolina winning a Stanley Cup. Like that's big time. It's like the non-traditional hockey market has dominated the Stanley Cup over the last 5 years. And I think that's a really cool thing to see. And you see it paying off. You see it being rewarded by like the commissioner coming out and saying, we're gonna look at Houston and Austin as our next ads. And like I genuinely like both of those options. I think Austin would be sick. Austin is a really good market. They're one of the biggest cities in the U.S. that lacks like a big four sports team. So I think the fan base would go crazy there for a hockey team.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk to you about the Houston or Austin debate because I think there's really valid arguments to have the team in both cities really.
Yeah.
Um, obviously Houston has a proven sports market when you look at all of the professional sports they already host. But the other side of that coin is I wonder if that would take away from the NHL fan base there because there are so many other sports, and things going on. So the argument I think for Austin is that, like you said, it would be one of the only, pro sports teams there. And I think either way, Texas is gonna ride hard for a pro sports team. So I don't know. I just wonder where they're gonna go because I could see both cities having a pretty good argument.
Yeah, I agree. I will say Austin is a very cool city, and in the sense that I think one thing that a lot of pro sports fans sort of overlook is the president, or not president, the jeez, the influence that like college sports and college athletics has in Austin. So you look at the University of Texas at Austin. They have a stadium that they sell out on a weekly basis in the football season that seats 110,000 people. They just built a brand new like basketball arena that could absolutely like host an NHL hockey team. It's a 15,000 seat arena, and that's where the basketball team plays for UT Austin. They have a great sports sort of or a great ability to rally behind college sports. I think it would be no problem for it to happen in Houston or in Austin. But then again, Houston's another great sports city. They have the Astros. They have the Texans. The Texans are on the come up. So it's interesting. I really am okay with either option at the end of the day. I think, and I'm okay with Texas getting another hockey team.
Here's a question for you. Obviously, like Texas is kind of an interesting market. The state's so giant, and I think all of them are probably Stars fans. You think that's going to be a weird transition? Like, do you think people in those areas are gonna, kind of stay true to the Stars? Do you think they switch to a local team as a fan base? Like, what's your
Again,
take on that? Do you think?
I think it would be a really seamless transition. Probably in both cities, they're a bit far apart from one another. I think you would see the college population in Austin really rally behind an Austin team. Like I said, they're able to pack 110,000 fans on a weekly basis into a football stadium. You just got to capture 15,000, on a week or on a almost nightly basis for hockey. The branding at UT Austin is really cool. And if I'm being honest, that's sort of how I fell into hockey. Right? It didn't happen until I got to UNC. And we got out there to North Carolina that like I fell in love with hockey, and I'm so grateful that it was the Canes. But I could easily see that like fan making process be replicated in an already tight knit sports community. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that would be an issue because you got to look. The Kraken didn't have an issue, right? And the Kraken are fairly close to Vancouver. The Knights,
Yeah.
they were close to they're an hour and a half to 2 hours away from two teams in Los Angeles, pretty much. They at the time they were relatively close to the Coyotes in well, where they play? They played in Tempe, right, or something like
Yeah, I think
that.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. I think that's sort of
I was
part of
Phoenix.
the. Was it Phoenix?
It was Phoenix. I'm pretty sure it was
That
Phoenix.
they played at Arizona State, right? Like at their
Yeah, at
stadium
the end
towards
of
the
their
end.
yeah,
Yeah,
when they were like failing, that's where they transitioned.
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think that sort of is part of any plan to bring a hockey team to a city is trying to work through how we're going to build the brand. Um, and I think they can do it. It'll take work, but I think what's cool about both cities is it positions them well to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think the NHL's kind of in a pretty interesting place. I think like almost reaching the level of these other sports where aren't too many more cities you can expand to.
No, I agree
Without
with
kind of
that.
diluting markets. Yeah, there may be a few. I've always thought Kansas City would make a fun team.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that'd be good. I thought Portland, in Oregon
Portland would be
could
cool.
be good, and like think
Absolutely.
about the rivalry that you could set up with the Kraken there. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be fun. And I also think like Baltimore, even
Yep.
Milwaukee. There's a couple cities I could see some cool teams, some cool rivalries forming, but I think when you look at it from a bigger picture, there's only really a few places they can truly look at expanding, and I think Texas is going to be a great place. Give the Stars someone to kind of have the Texas rivalry is going to be awesome.
Yeah,
That is going to be such a fun rivalry to watch.
the Texas Civil War. No, I agree with you. The one place that I saw on a forum that I was like, wow, that would be really cool if somehow the NHL could make it happen, is Mexico City. I think it would be so cool to get Mexico involved in the NHL. But yeah, I don't know that
Would
we
it
will
be
ever see that happen.
I think there's a lot of logistical things that come along with that, but I'm curious, what if we did that, if the NHL did that ever, would that make it the first three country sports league, at least in like the Western Hemisphere?
I I I think so. I think obviously it. I want to say the Champions League in soccer in Europe is.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying on the Western
Yeah,
Hemisphere. I know
yeah, no,
football
I
kind of
know.
goes crazy, but
But yeah, no. Baseball doesn't do it. Football doesn't do it. Football's been trying to like dip into like getting a NFL team in Europe, um, but it's not been working well. I just think as we see so many more of these international series, um, that like it really opens up the possibility to having a NHL team in a third country, and Mexico City would just be unreal. I think the crowd could get behind it in a really cool way, and the branding would be incredible.
yeah, you could definitely do some cool stuff with that. And I think I think a lot of fans in Mexico would even if hockey's not a huge sport right now, I think with the love of the sports they do love, I think there's a lot of comparisons to hockey when
Oh
you
yeah,
look at soccer and the skill behind it, and I think people will fall in love with it real quick.
agreed, agreed. All right, let's transition fully into our off-season talk. Um, it's already been a crazy off-season. The first one that actually came through was Radish to the Leaves. But the big blockbuster one's going to be Brady Kachuk to Florida. So which one of those two do you want to start with? I
I mean,
admittedly know less about the Radish to Toronto, and have
yeah,
less opinions on it than I do the Florida one. But yeah, up to you.
I mean, let's start with Radish. I mean, he kind of opened up the trading here. I think for Toronto, it's a fantastic pickup. To be honest, I'm actually a little surprised Tampa didn't hold on to Radish. He had a wonderful season last year, and people knew he was going to get paid this year, and he did. But I was kind of surprised. You look at a team like Tampa Bay, who got first rounded this year, but that's a good he's not young, but that's a really good, like, in his prime defenseman. And when you look at their aging roster, I was just kind of surprised they didn't want to hold on to him, especially after the season they had. But I think for Toronto, who's been struggling and, I think are kind of by the very, very, by a very tight thread, are just trying to hold on to Austin Matthews, trying to give him a reason to stay. I think it's a great pickup to make the team better. And really, they didn't have to give up too much to get him, just a fifth round pick. So to me, that's a pretty good trade for Toronto. I actually think Tampa kind of gets the losing side of that, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I don't really know what Tampa's cap situation's like either. So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe that had something to do with it.
ESPN agrees with you. Gives Tampa Bay a C plus rating on the trade. Gives the Leafs. Sorry. Gives them a B. I yeah. I don't have much on this one.
Okay, well let's
But
just jump. Well,
oh,
yeah.
I was just going to say I don't know. Maybe it gets crowded with the idea that you have to re-sign Kucherov. Um, but yeah, I'm
What is his contract say? I think Kucherov. It's so interesting. With older players, it's so hard. Kucherov's amazing. Obviously they want him there. He just, obviously was player of the year pretty much. And he's a great cornerstone of that team. I just think about guys like they have Victor Hedman on that team,
yep.
he's a legend. But I definitely think he's getting that age where he's starting to fall off very hard, and I guess that's why it was shocking to me. Like when you look at those kinds of pieces aging out, that you wouldn't want to keep a guy like Radish around, especially if in the next couple of years you're going to go for a retool or a rebuild. I think that's a great player to do it around. And yeah, I think Toronto really walks away with the win on that one.
All
And
right.
it kind of leads us into, the Kraken getting Samaskovich for the first round pick from Florida
Oh,
and a second round
wait! You
pick.
skipped the
Whoa.
Kachuk trade.
Well, that wasn't yet. That hasn't happened yet. The
Ah,
Samaskovich trade happened first. And I think it
see,
kind of set
yeah,
Florida up with essentially draft picks uh to go for Kachuk at the
yeah,
end of the day.
yep. You're right. You're 100% right.
The and I guess that it is just that easy. Samaskovich, young guy, pretty good, but to be honest, it wasn't a player who was gonna have a major impact on Florida, especially the way they ended up making trades right after that. So I actually, for Florida, I kind of get it, to be honest.
And I think it works out for Seattle as well. So it's feels like a relatively low stakes trade, um, especially with what
Yeah,
followed it. You know.
yeah. So Kachuk to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah,
What
and
are your
the
thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Kachuk to the Panthers. Senators get um, number 9 and number 25 this year. They get the first round pick of the Panthers in 2029, and then a 2030 second round. I I personally believe that this is just a move that panders to the Kachuk brand. I don't know that I love it. I don't know that it really addresses any of the Panthers' needs, other than making Matthew happy. Uh,
Yeah,
it's odd. It's an odd move in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I think we all expected it at some point in their career that they were going to play together. Just given Florida's situation with contracts and their goaltending, it was really surprising to me because that is a number one issue. They have two AHL goalies currently suited up on their roster as their NHL goalies. Uh, and to me, that's a big problem, especially when your starters looking to make a lot of money. And the talks before that surrounding the Panthers goalie situation was let's bring in Hellebuck, which they can no longer afford. So to me, it is puzzling when you consider that. And, Florida fans, good luck. I hope you guys find a
They
goalie
love it.
because,
They
to be
love it.
honest,
If you go and look around on social media, they are so pumped about this trade. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why. Because exactly that. They have two AHL goalies on their roster, but also, I don't believe that Brady Kachuk is a caliber of player that warrants 3 first round picks, let alone the additional second that they threw in. And I think on that could be the Senators sort of like, I guess, realizing the leverage they have in this trade. But no way do I view Brady Tkachuk as a 3 first-round pick player. That's unreal to me.
Yeah, it's a major overpay for an old team as well. Like, let's bring it back to that. They're old.
Yeah,
Florida's old. They have 7 players 30 years or older.
yeah,
And
and like
they,
you're
they
you're relying on Barkov to come back and be the same player that he was after he destroys his knee in a freak injury. That at his age, like that is not a guarantee, you know.
yeah, he played well at the World Championships.
But
But
the
yeah,
caliber
I
of
mean, you're
opponent in the
completely right.
world in the world championships is not the same as going
100%.
against an NHL team on a Tuesday night, you know.
100%. Yep.
And then
It
just
is.
like
Go ahead.
even you look at the contract that Bob's asking for, 4 to 5 years, $45 million, like that. How are you going to do that when you're
At 37.
at
At
yes at
37.
37 when Bob's coming off a horrible year? um it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
yeah,
puzzling.
yeah,
And all I'm gonna say to Florida fans out there is, you might think you're fine with no goalie, but I'll tell you, as a Canes fan who watched this for the last 8 years where we didn't have a goalie, no matter how good the team in front of the goalies are, you're screwed. You are
it
screwed.
doesn't work, especially with older guys. Like that was the big thing that the Canes had to do to get over the hump is cut ties with Brent Burns and some guys who were aging out of the system. And it, I just like I don't understand what Florida does. You don't get the opportunity to use the draft to be younger now. Um, it's
Yeah,
yeah,
let's talk about that too. They trade away all these first round picks, and this is they were already, as far as I'm understanding, were lower on picks. They didn't have all of them. Um, and to me, you're going, okay. Let's add more guys who turn 30 in a couple years, and let's make it impossible for us to rebuild or trade beyond that, because all our guys who are over 30 are going to start losing value very quickly. That's how that works. And I don't understand what the long term vision is unless it is a full commitment to winning over the next couple of years and then deciding they're going to just be bad again like they used to be and going back to being like bottom feeders.
yeah. And at what point do you look at like the play style of the Panthers, where it's hard nosed, physical, aggressive, sort of instigating hockey? You, you're not going to be able to maintain that with guys that are aging up. It's like that. There's going to be a point where you can't send Brad Marchand out there to be a rat because he's gonna get destroyed. And it's it, I it's such a unique mix of personalities that I think it's going to be really hard to sort of replenish the reserves that fit into that team and that sort of mindset when it comes to hockey, especially when you're looking at how newer hockey players are being brought up. And they're more focused on that skill side of things, less focused on being like rats. And I'm sure there's still rats out there, but it's not the same hockey that's being taught to young kids.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's so confusing to me. I really don't understand. I know they have a couple players they can move off of to free up a little bit of cap space, but at the end of the day, to me, it just seems like a big mistake. And I guess we'll see how it plays out for them. Obviously, their their roster on the ice, aside from the goalies, is pretty excellent. So, it'll be fun to watch. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was a good move at the end of the day. I really don't. And maybe I'll eat my words, but I just don't think so. Ottawa coming out with 2 draft picks. Unfortunately, that is not the last time we're going to see the number 9 moved. Not unfortunately. I guess it's kind of cool. That number 9 position's bouncing around. Whoever's projected at 9 has thought they're going to 3 different cities in the last 2 days.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
pretty exciting too. But um,
I'm okay
I
with it being the Sharks if I'm a potential pick, because that is a young, fun team to be a part of.
absolutely, yeah.
So the next trade to sort of come through is Nemec to the Flames from the Devils. I know that was a guy you liked for the Canes, so why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying I had brought that up to you. I think the day before he got traded, I said it would be really cool to upgrade Walker to Nemec. He's a great young player, second overall pick. I think he's only 22, and New Jersey kind of backed themselves into a corner with him because they have Hughes and Dougie Hamilton, who they pretty much committed to as their top line, even though this guy was wonderful. And this guy wanted a lot of money, and they couldn't make it happen. So
Yep.
I actually like that he goes to Calgary. I think that's going to be a big piece for him. I mean, obviously, it would have been cool to see him come to the Canes, but there's that was not the only player I was looking at for those positions at the end of the day, and he would have been a little more expensive. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with it. At the end of the day, I think that'll make the Flames a lot more interesting. To be
Yeah.
to be honest, they've been lacking the last couple of years. So
I think it's a really cool move. It's just getting a skill player and filling a gap that you need. It's the exact opposite of the Florida trade in my mind. So I love it. I think
and two
both.
firsts and a second
Yeah, I think
for New Jersey.
both teams come out fairly well in that trade. It's cool. I like that one a lot. I also really like the idea of him coming to the Canes, but that's okay. Um, yeah.
And
Anything else on that
Ottawa,
one?
no, I think that one's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, both like you said, I guess both teams really come out. I think pretty good on that one. I think if you're New Jersey, you're probably upset with having to trade him. Period, but your return's pretty good, so nothing to be too upset about. And I guess the next trade we see that number 9 pick move again, like you said, San Jose gets rid of William Eklund. Now this one actually took me a little bit by surprise. I had thought San Jose was going to hold on to Eklund, especially given where they're at. And watching him, he's actually a really good player.
Oh, he's incredible.
And
He's
his
incredible.
Yeah, his contract is super team friendly, especially with the cap going up too. I was just pretty shocked to see him move, to be honest. And to be honest, it had me puzzled until I started thinking about perhaps maybe what San Jose could do with the second and the ninth paired together if you're going to go look for an upgrade or something like that, or go with your second and 27th for an upgrade and keep the second. I don't know what their plan is, to be quite honest with you, but I imagine the reason the Sharks wanted this was because they saw a path where they could get a potential upgrade using that first or the extra first round pick they picked up here.
Well, I
But I'm
think
not really sure what the plan is.
yeah, I think in the long run too, it ultimately ends up being like right the ninth pick is a lot cheaper in the long run than the second pick is, and I've seen discussions and talks of Sharks being willing to move off of that second round pick. They are going to have to channel their inner Eric Tolsky over the next probably 5 seasons to make sure they can keep Will Smith and Macklin Celebrity and the really cool core of young guys that they have. And I think the Eklund move is good for sort of setting them up to do that, right? Like he's young, he's 23, but that means he's getting into more of the contract sort of conversation over the next couple seasons. So it sort of helps you manage that fire and keep it sort of contained while getting good picks so that you don't necessarily have to use the expensive second pick this season, you know?
Yeah, and then they threw in Haltonen and Svoboda, which isn't bad. No, those guys aren't really panning out, I think, to be what the Sharks maybe had taken the gamble on. Not that they're bad or anything like that, but I don't think they're anything too special. So I think, they get a first round out of it. Um, I think for Ottawa, that's a really big trade considering you just lost Kachuk. They were already looking for like a depth on the left wing before Kachuk left. So obviously Kachuk leaving, kind of puts a big hole in their left wing, kind of group. So to
But
pick up
what
a good young player like Eklund, I think is really huge for Ottawa as well.
but what they end up doing with Eklund too that makes this so good, and then sort of losing Brady, okay, is how young they get with Eklund. That's the recipe, is finding manageable youth. I love it.
Yeah, and he's like I said, really good contract. I
Yep.
think it's like 5.5 million a year or something like that for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Which, with the cap going up, it's like as good as Stankoven's contract. You know what I mean? To me, I think that's a great contract. And I think both teams kind of walk away with something. I'm curious to see what San Jose does do with their 3 first round picks this year, though. And I do not think they're going to be. To be honest, I don't even speculation alert. I don't think they're going to pick Stenberg. If I look at their team, like you said, they have an extensive young core that is very good, but they will also be very expensive. Uh, it's not just Celebrini and Smith. It's Colin Graff. It's Sam Dickinson. It's Yaroslav Askarov, their starting goalie. Uh, it there's a lot of young guys in there that you're gonna have to look at signing, and
Yeah.
they are not gonna be cheap. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense for San Jose to go out and get another $15 million player in the
Yeah.
draft. It just doesn't. So to me, I think they trade it. And I don't know for sure. I know a lot of Sharks fans are like, no, we want Stenberg or whatever. But to me, if you're looking at the long term picture, I don't know if that's the smartest route for them.
I agree. I agree.
They're also they're also really offensive heavy, and the Sharks' issue over the last couple seasons has been defensive. So to me, it's like taking Stenberg doesn't really help that situation, especially when there's a couple defensemen coming out now saying they want out of their cities. I think Werenski would be a really cool addition to San Jose
It'd be an
or
even,
Carolina,
yeah. That's what
honestly.
I was about to say. He'd be an even cooler addition to the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of guys out there that will help the Sharks out, and I honestly don't think that a high draft pick is the way to go. So I think that's a good time to move on to the Kairu trade.
Yeah, I was gonna say we bundle the two Washington trades that we saw come through. So
Yeah,
Kyrou and Tuck.
absolutely. Yeah,
You see Washington making moves to sort of be good now, but also be able to be good for a while. Tuck is 30. Kairou's in his late 20s, right? I'm pretty sure.
I think yeah.
Um,
Maybe
you
late
know,
20s, but yeah.
Kyrou is a big guy to St. Louis. And I don't know. I think it's an
Insane.
interesting sort of trend for the Caps. They're doing a good job at making it compelling for Ovechkin to be there next year and be engaged, to feel like he has a competitive team.
Yeah, well, and it paves the road for when he leaves,
Yeah.
right? I think that's the big thing. They're starting to cover that position so that when they do lose him, inevitably they're still deep, or arguably deeper
Yeah.
than they were at the tail end of Ovechkin's career here. And I think for the Blues, there's been a lot of talk about Kyrou, taking off at the deadline last year, and Bennington. I think they're hitting the reset button. I think they know that the room they got, whatever, there's just no way to make it work the way they want it to. And they're going to go with a clean slate. And I think we're seeing that now, too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple other players, from St. Louis kind of go on the move here in the offseason. And then for the Capitals, like you said, Tuck is going to be a great one. I know we had talked a little bit before he actually got moved, and I said, I don't think he'd be a good. Well, he'd be a good Hurricane. I don't think that's the problem. But you look at the contract he ended up signing, and it's way too
It's a
expensive.
big boy.
It's too
It's a big
expensive
boy.
and
8 years,
too long.
10.5 million AAV. It's too long for a player that's going to be almost 40 by the end of the contract. Um, I felt
Yeah,
like it was an Eric Tulsky pickup. So I definitely thought there was more of a chance of Tuck ending up in Carolina than I think you did. But I think it's good. I think it works out. Tuck gets his contract that he wanted. Now it's time to put that behind him and leave the talking on the ice, and show us what the skill
yeah.
is. Um,
Well, I think he's really good. I think he's going to bring a good two-way game to the Capitals, and like I just think it's too expensive. The Sharks got caught in this same exact situation where they signed a 30-year-old who was pretty good to an 8-year big contract, and I think this was back in 2018 when they signed Couture for 8 million. He played for 2 or 3 seasons, got injured, and never came back, and still till next season they're paying him $8 million,
yep.
which if you think about the size of that contract when the cap was $30 million lower, that's like paying a guy 10 million
Yep.
in today's cap.
Yep.
And I you just run that risk with a guy like Alex Tuck in signing that kind of a contract. But I think the Capitals are probably thinking if they are going to go, after Ovechkin, after they go for their last couple runs here and they're going to hit the rebuild, it's going to be a lot cheaper with the cap going up and some young youth players who aren't quite as expensive yet. So a $10 million contract might not hurt them as much, but I still think it runs a risk for sure.
Yeah, to close out the conversation on the Caps trades, I think out of all the trades we do see come through, the Tuck and Kyrie trades are the two that stand out to me that are like players that could benefit the most from a change of scenery. And I kind of like that. I like that they're getting the opportunity to sort of do that together, and have that be a part of the culture that's coming into the team. It's going to be two guys looking to sort of hit the reset button and put the past, like, sort of for Tuck contract talks that have happened for, I feel like, the last 2 years to sort of bed. But Kairu, who things got loud for him in St. Louis over the last couple seasons. I don't know if you had seen any of that over the last couple years, but I think it's good for them. They're both getting out of their original teams and sort of restarting, and I think that it's cool when players get to sort of do that.
I mean, I think the Canes are kind of masters at it, and that's probably in due to our culture and coaching. But at the end of the day, we are firsthand experts at seeing guys get a change of scenery and it just absolutely working out.
Ehlers,
Yeah,
Miller,
Taylor Hall is
Stankov,
probably.
and Hall. Just yeah,
I think Hall is probably the biggest example. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, unreal. And I kind of hope we continue to keep that as our identity. Finding these slightly undervalued players. And I guess that's the only criticism I have with the Tuck pickup is that it feels like it might be a little overvalued. But at the end of the day, like I said, with a team who's probably going to be restarting here a little, not too far in the future, it's probably not as risky.
yep, yep. All right, so the the big one that I've seen a lot of criticism about, it's going to be Bowen Byram to the Blackhawks, and like one of the main sentences covering the trade on ESPN is that Buffalo fleeced Chicago. Um, so what are
It's an
your
overpay.
thoughts? Yeah,
I mean, undoubtedly, it's an overpay. It's the first time I think since 2003 we've seen a top five pick get traded. That doesn't really happen in the NHL, uh, and and I think we'll see it more. I think that will be a more common trend now that the league is kind of shifting in the direction it is, where players want to go where players want to go, and loyalty to a team isn't exactly what it used to be. Mainly in due to contracts and player rights, right? And that's a good thing, I think, to be honest. Um, but I think that will be more common. But still, it's an overpay for Bowen Byram. It is a piece that's going to help Chicago.
big time.
It
That
it
that
comes,
was my
yeah,
thought. It's a young defenseman to match with the young superstar offensive player you have, and I think
yeah.
that's
Well,
where the Blackhawks could thread the needle with this one.
yeah, and well, you talked about like change of scenery for a guy like Byram. He's stuck on second line D for Buffalo
Yep.
because they are absolutely stacked. When you look at their defense, and for him, this is going to be a great opportunity to kind of go get those first line minutes he wants and kind of show what he can do with them. So I definitely think it's something that could benefit him. I will say it's an overpay and it's a little risky. The 1 year, I think he only has 1 year left on his contract. So if they stink and he doesn't want to stick around, you essentially got rid of draft picks and for nothing essentially. And
Yeah.
I think that is where the I think that's where the trade gets like kind of a bad rep. But I will say Byram's come out and said that he was like honestly like a Chicago fan growing up, and like this is where he wants to play, and it's where he's wanted to play for a while. I find that really interesting, but I also think maybe that takes some of that, some of those scaries away, if that
Yeah,
makes
it
sense.
it makes the bet seem a little bit more favorable. I when the trade first came through yesterday, I had texted you and I was like, well, let's wait and see if it's a sign and trade or a trade and sign, and that never came through, which was surprising to me, and I think it was surprising to everyone, um, but I like a good gamble, you know, in the age where we're forced fed like gambling ads, sports betting ads. I think it's cool to see the team be the one that takes the gamble, you know?
I mean, it's a lot of fun to watch. I'm happy it's not the Canes, though. Let me
Me
put it that
too.
way.
Me too.
So, but I am excited to see. That's definitely going to help Chicago. I think if you're Bedard, I think part of the reason you do this, by the way,
Is
Bedard's
Bedard.
not signed yet, guys.
Yeah.
He's not signed, and they're coming close. They are getting really, really close to getting some offer sheets for Bedard. And to be honest, man, I people are saying it would be insane for him to walk away. The way things are going right now, the way players are requesting trades, I don't know. If they can't get it done, they can't get it done.
Yep.
And they have all the money. The thing is with Chicago, he's a restricted free agent, I'm pretty sure. So if a team offers him something, Chicago can match. But I think it's clear Chicago doesn't want to pay Bedard what he wants to make. And I think someone will. And
He's got to be
I think
asking for
Chicago's
more
shooting
than
themselves in the foot.
he's got to be asking for more than Kaprizov, right? Like that. He wants.
No,
You don't think
I
he
think the
wants to be
report
the
is
best?
15. No, I think it's 15. I
I
think
mean,
it's 15 mil is what he's asking for. But
even then, it's like he is a great skilled player. It's just like, does he have enough tape to say, hey, he's a guy worth 15 mil to the Blackhawks? You know, I would be very okay with the Carolina Hurricanes paying Connor Bedard 15 million. You know,
I don't think there's maybe a 1% chance that not
hey,
even. I don't even think it's that big. But how
hey, it's
crazy would that be?
non-zero. There's a non-zero chance for anything to
That's true.
happen. But
It is absolutely true.
you know who benefited almost guaranteed the most from Alex Tuck and Bowen Byram being sent to Mars from Buffalo? Zach Benson, who signs a 7-year, $7.5 million AAV contract. And
I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting him to ask for more. I think he could have asked for more.
I think this is it's similar to the Logan Stankoven deal.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. He's incredible. Um,
It's a good
Man,
contract.
Buffalo did a good job. I think so far in these last couple trades. Despite losing some pieces and having a relatively successful playoff run, um, I guess it could be a little scary for Buffalo fans seeing all these names fly around, but I actually think they come out pretty good with these trades. So,
Yeah, yeah. They get younger. Not
especially
so
when you look
much
at the
with
resigns.
yeah, and not so much with Byram. You don't get younger moving off of him. He's 25. He's young, but the Tuck contract get saying bye 30-year-old Alex Tuck. Yeah, we're going to sign. We're gonna sign Benson till he's your age. You know, like I think
Yeah,
that's smart. It's good.
yeah, and it's a
Uh,
great contract, like you said. The cap going up, that's the wild thing. We've never seen it in hockey go like at this rate. So a lot of these contracts this year are like such a big deal because as it goes up, players are just going to continue to ask for more, which makes sense. But it's wild because these teams who are able to pull off long term, really good contracts right now are going to be seeing some insane benefits here in the next couple years. And I think that's why I'm such a fan of where Carolina's at, to be quite honest with you.
Agreed. Speaking of Carolina, let's go ahead and end things off with a Hurricanes sort of draft roster change sort of dream scenario. What are you looking for the Canes to do?
We've talked a lot. I think we disagree a little bit on some of it, but I think it's kind of fun to have some different speculation.
Here,
Um,
let's start.
like I
Let's
talked,
throw out some guys then.
yeah,
Let,
yeah. I
what?
mean, let's just start on the back end. I think our defense is so solid that I would be completely fine if we changed absolutely nothing with our defense. But at the end of the day, as a cup champion or as cup champions, I genuinely believe you don't just sit back and run the same roster back. I think that's such a foolish move.
Agreed.
And one thing that concerns me looking at our defensive core is the age.
Yep.
Um, Chatfield 30, Ghost 33, Walker 31, Slavin 32, Miller is at 26. Miller's in a great place for us. But those other four guys who are very pivotal for us, on the back end, are kind of getting older.
Yep. And
And it kind of comes down
Nikishin's
to,
not a guarantee. So like him being 20
yeah,
22, 23 isn't a guaranteed benefit for the Canes, especially when it comes to the older defensemen. So I I think the one that we definitely agree on, if the Canes can figure out a way to make a move, is Werenski, right? Like I think that's a
I
dream
think, yeah.
scenario in my mind.
I think there's a few players we could look at. I guess let's start with who I would want to upgrade from on
Yeah.
in terms of defense. I think Sean Walker is honestly probably not a bad shout, but I could also see us going for Ghost. Except for Ghost was so good in the
Ghost is
playoffs
the whole season.
that
Anytime he
uh-huh.
hasn't been hurt, Ghost has been very good.
Yeah, and he is our oldest defenseman, but he's definitely still got a few more years. And given his age, and given that he's re-signing next year, I feel like we could pull him on a pretty team-friendly contract. Y- I think you keep him. He's a third pairing as well. He's not playing top line minutes. He's not playing second line minutes. He's anchoring the third line.
And
So
but he's
to
also
me,
huge on the power play, and it's like that is
exactly.
one of
Yeah,
the areas that we did grow a lot last season. So it's like if you want to keep him so he quarterbacks the power play, I'm totally cool with that. Walker, I think this is one that we've sort of gone back and forth with a lot. Well, we'll focus on defense still. Walker,
yeah. I
I
think
think he had a really good playoff, and that's what makes me hesitant to say, all right, buy Walker. But I also get that one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at our other defensemen, right? Miller, Slavin, Ghost, Chatfield. I, I would rather keep all of those guys rather than Walker, I guess
Yeah,
is where I stand on it, right?
yeah,
It's not really that I want Walker gone. It's just that when you look at the rest of the D core, I don't think he outshines any of them. He's 31. He's making the third most of any of our defensemen, 3.6. It's not that much more than Ghost and Chatfield, but it clears up cap space. It allows us to make a big move, especially with our existing cap space. I think you look at Walker and you go, okay, that's a guy I think we could upgrade for sure. And
agreed.
I guess it does depend on the Nikishin signing, and obviously that'll be interesting. I you know Probably between 5 and 8 million. I know Tolsky can work some magic, and that's why I say five, but it'll probably be more than that. I think it kind of depends on the term of the contract that he's looking for as well. So I mean, at the end of the day, I would love to have Nikishin back, but I think there could be good trade value behind Nikishin as well. So that's another guy I really wouldn't mind seeing going for a big upgrade for.
So I mean, the one thing that I had sort of presented today was, do you package Nikishin in a deal to get the Sharks' second pick?
Just like the Sharks, I honestly don't believe the Canes would benefit too much from having the second overall pick. I mean, it's a good long term move, but our goal is to win the cup. And the thing with a drafted player is that there's no guarantee on how they're going to perform. If you're not a top five pick in the draft, I feel like you're not really even guaranteed to play too many games in the NHL your first year. It's just hard from a development standpoint. I don't really feel like it fits the storyline of our team right now, and that's why I'm kind of reluctant to go for a pick like that.
Okay.
It also limits us in the future. If we want to bring any big players in that have longer contracts, and we know we're going to have to re-sign a second overall pick, I just think it makes it a little bit harder. So to me, I don't think the second pick is really where it's at. I think we want to go for an immediate upgrade of player, not someone who will be an upgrade in the future, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And to me, there's only a handful of guys when you're looking at moving off of Walker or Nikishin that really would fit the role or the right role for the Canes. I think as defensively sound as we are, and even though we were able to keep up in scoring here in the playoffs and everything, we all know that, offense is what we want on the team, and we want someone who comes through consistently. who we can rely on. And I think even with our top guys, we haven't really had that ever. And I just think, we talked about Werenski. That would be an awesome pickup. I think you add
Immediate
him. He played
upgrade,
on
like you
Team
said.
USA. Yeah, he played with Slavin, Team USA. He won the Norris last year. He's an offensive puck moving defenseman who's really responsible in the D zone too, and and his contract's incredible.
Yeah.
His contract's like 9.5, I think, or something like that. It's really good. Um, so to me, that would be a pretty cool pickup. Uh, I don't feel as strongly about this next one, but another player I could see maybe being an upgrade from Walker is Anderson on the Knights. I think he's a pretty decent puck moving defenseman, brings some size, and clearly he's gone deep in the playoffs. He knows what he's doing. But at the end of the day, like I think we got to find a really solid guy if we're gonna go for that Walker upgrade because Walker was not bad at all, and we're not paying him too much. So I just think it kind of comes down to wanting someone a little bit younger there too. Like I said, the age of the defense is a little concerning, but I guess we'll see. Nemec, I think, would have been my favorite though. I think Nemec would have been the coolest person to replace there.
Yeah, I
What about
I agree.
forwards?
Um,
Let's
I
let's
think
talk
one more
forward.
one
So
more
so
thing about Werenski that I wanted
okay.
to cover, and it was something that we had
Yeah, yeah.
texted about. Don Waddle, he's a Nikishin guy, right? He's the guy that drafted Nikishin. I think it is reasonable to say that like that could be a potential in when it comes to being a trade partner for Werenski. And I like that. I think it'd be fun. But
Dude,
yes,
Revensky to the Canes would be awesome. There's absolutely no doubt. I think that would make our top line. I think we'd probably go Slavin Revensky. I would kind of hope we'd roll
yeah,
that way, and then we
yeah,
do like what Miller, Chatfield, Ghost, and whoever else we end up signing.
yeah.
That's a pretty cool decor. That's a pretty stacked decor actually. Um, and it comes at a good price for us. I want to transition into forwards because I think this is where we disagree a little bit.
Yeah.
And the hard thing is that I agree with you at the same time that I disagree with you. I think the big forward. Okay, let me take a step back. When you look at our forwards group, I think we are a lot stronger on the right wing and through the center than we are on the left wing. Um, and to me, part of that's age, part of that's skill. And the one player that I really love on the Canes, who I know brings more than just on ice performance, and I think that does need to be noted, is Jordan Martinook. And the reason I feel this way is because his contract's only a single year longer. He's 33, so like we've been talking about, you kind of want to keep the team young, especially Stahl 37, right? Carrier 31. Our whole fourth line's pretty old. And of course, we have some young talent, but a lot of it goes through the center or down the right wing. And I think we are missing that element on the left wing. And to me, if you're gonna trade a roster player, you kind of need to replace them. You can't just like use them to trade for another position because then you leave a hole in the lineup, and that's not the way the Canes play. We don't have holes. So to me, I look at our left wingers and or I guess the one that would make us the best deal in terms of cap, but also, he is losing value every single year we keep him is Jordan Martinook. So I look at some of the guys that we've heard rumored coming to the Canes for quite some time now, like Pedersen or Robertson, someone who could really bring that 1A scoring to us. And I just think if you were going to bring a guy like that, Martinook's kind of the one that gets shifted out, in my opinion. Are you still there,
Sorry, yeah,
Don?
we're good.
Oh,
I was
cool.
saying, yeah, I think maybe like Eric Robinson can be a guy. My biggest thing, and you alluded to it, is Martinook is like the culture guy when it comes to the Canes, and it's hard for me to envision a scenario where Eric Tolsky isn't throwing him a 2-3 year contract at very minimal AAV just to keep that around. I mean, look, we just saw a 30-year-old get an 8-year contract. They're drastically different players, but they both fit very specific roles. I just have a hard time seeing the Canes move off of Martinook, based on how much
Yeah.
he means, and that's just my thing. I agree with you. Like, a championship team and a team that's like going for the repeat has some hard decisions to make, and I ultimately think this is one of them. Um, but I just think what Martinook does for players like Jarvis, but the interactions he has with Fetch, and just like the relationship that he has with Rod, it's hard for me to envision a Canes team without him in the next few years. Um, but yeah, I guess I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean,
How
I want to
much
touch on
like
that a little
a
bit too.
hockey team values like that compared to like, yeah, we have to make this hard decision.
I mean, it definitely plays a role, but I think something that makes the Canes unique, and I guess this is where I agree with your point. He's massively important in the locker room, but where I disagree is I don't think he is the only. I think he is very far from the only player on this team that carries that value in that locker
Yeah,
room.
yeah,
And so to me, when you kind of consider the space you would get from kind of moving off a guy like that, and still kind of having guys that do that in the locker room, guys like Jordan Stahl, even guys now like Seabass and Svechnikov who have been there, and really. They have said that they've put Aho next to Stahl in the locker room so that he can learn from him. And I just think there are guys in this locker room that bring kind of that same energy
and
and that
they
same
all
value.
the same leadership. I think at the end of the day, that is what like sort of makes me believe that it could be okay without him. Is exactly what you're saying. They all have, like, I mean, even if you look at Jarvis, and you look at some of the other guys, they all know what it takes to win the cup now, and so many of them are going to be returning next year, to the point where it's like they don't rely on Jordan Martinook to set a culture, or like teach like a culture to a big crop of incoming people. It's like everyone on the team is going to fill that role, I think, especially coming off of the cup. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely agree with what you're saying.
yeah, and I mean the other thing, like you had brought up Eric Robinson, and that is another thing they could do. But when I look at their two contracts comparatively, and I think about where they play, like I don't really want to move our fourth line.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I know
fair.
they're not great, and you could definitely upgrade them, but when you look at what we have for a fourth line and the value we have it at, it's hard for me to argue, to move away from that. And you look at, he's 2 years younger than Martinook still has 3 years on a contract. Like to me, it would be harder to move off Robinson. We're not moving off Ehlers, right?
Yeah.
And then who's the other left winger? Hall right now, who I also don't see them moving off
No,
of
no, you can't,
because you
man.
don't want to
He's
break up
so
that line.
good.
Yeah.
He's so
Yeah.
good. Um,
Yeah, so to me, the only left winger on the roster that we can actually move off of is Jordan Martinook.
yep.
To me, and I know that he brings a lot, and it is a hard decision, like you said. That's why I'm curious to see if we do end up getting it, and it really depends on what's available.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if we're gonna have a chance to get Robertson or Pedersen or one of these guys at the end of the day. So, and obviously, if those opportunities don't present themselves, I would be very happy with Jordan Martinook staying on the team.
100%. When I guess
And
let's
then
end on this. Oh well, the one
where's one
conversation
more?
that I
There's one more.
yeah, the one conversation I wanted to have is the goalie situation. Is that what you were talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I have strong feelings about a lot of the rhetoric that I'm seeing on like Canes forums, and different ideas being floated around for goalie moves, and that the one is hell about to the Canes. I don't like that move. I think it's an unnecessary move. I think it's a Brady Kachuk to the Panthers move, and it really complicates our goalie situation if we do bring a bona fide number one guy that is Helly, and you sort of inject him to like the sort of dynamic that we're left with after the cup, where we have Bussy, who is a good goalie and has definitely, in my opinion, earned his right to start next season as our number one dude. And I like having Cooch as a backup.
Yeah,
But
let's talk
yeah,
about that a little bit,
yeah,
because I think you kind of got to look at like our recipe for goalies last year is far from like the traditional
yes,
setup,
yeah,
and I think what makes it so unique is we didn't. I mean, we didn't really have a starter. We kind of split the net, and that comes with its ups and downs. But to me, one benefit it really brought, and where we really saw it come through, was the playoffs.
yeah.
And I honestly would not be surprised. I think Bussy performed incredibly during the season, during the postseason. We got a decent sample size. The problem with it is he's such a shot in the dark. We still really don't know. And next year, I
I,
wouldn't be surprised if he started off and he was terrible. And it's not that
I
big
would
of a
be
deal if he
surprised
is.
if
We're
he was
not paying him.
terrible. If he started
I'm
next
just
season
saying.
and it was awful, I would be very surprised. I would
All I'm saying is, yeah, it would not be the first time that's happened.
no,
Is all
I
I'll
agree
say.
with that.
And
It's in his hands though, and I think he's earned the right to have it be in his hands.
I agree with that. But again, let's go back to what you were saying. You said you think Bussy deserves to have his shot as the starter. And I agree with that to a sense. But like I said, I don't really think we have a number one goalie. I think the way we work is shifting to splitting the net. And
And like you said,
I
it paid
think you're right.
dividends. It got
Yeah,
us the cup. It got us the
exactly.
cup doing it.
Yeah, and so like you said, I mean, I don't think Hellebuck's the answer, because he is gonna want to be a starter, and while he would be an upgrade, there's no doubt he's a great goalie.
Yeah.
Uh, it puts a cap on our window. We're trying to bring in some youth here, and to me, you're kind of it's not good for the culture. I don't think it's the right play. It's expensive. It takes away from upgrades that we can make on the roster, and to me, Hellebuck wouldn't be the answer to our problems. But we did talk about one guy
Well,
who
one
I
more
know
thing
has
about
been rumored.
Hellebuck.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
One more thing.
Yeah.
It could, on the off chance that we do go for him, it could firmly establish the Winnipeg to Raleigh pipeline of dudes escaping a stale environment and getting to somewhere good. And I'd be okay with that. If he wants to come and join the Eulers and do that, I just think you have a problem with getting a guy like him who's, one, going to be expensive, but two, deserves to be the starting goalie after everything that he's done. But yeah, this next idea you're about to talk about, I'm a big fan of it. So let us hear it.
Yeah. So rumors last year were that Minnesota's in a weird position. They got two absolute studs in net, and one of them's a little older, one of them's a little younger. But after the playoffs, they kind of made it clear that they were leaning in the direction of Gustafsson, it seemed. And Wallstead played a little bit, but I think, to be honest, Wallstead would be such a fantastic person for the Canes to look at bringing in. Really for a couple reasons. His contract's great. He's 23. He's young, so he's not like an
He's
established
young.
goaltender yet. He's not, yeah, and I guess you could look at that with a side of risk, but he's kind of proven himself. I think he is going to be a franchise level goalie. And the cool thing about a goalie like that is goalies take a little bit longer to develop than the other pieces on an NHL roster. So really, you're not looking at a prime goalie until like 27 to like 33. Really, you know what I mean? And that being said, you normally have a franchise starter, like we saw with Dobesh this year, in Minnesota or in freaking Montreal, right? But those guys will split the net with a goalie who's doing pretty good. When we look at, like, could you imagine splitting the net Bussy and Wallstead getting him that experience, kind of developing this goalie for the next couple seasons, and then having like that 1A goalie,
Well,
I
yeah,
think
and
would be incredible.
especially when you think about the fact that combined, that our goalie tandem would be making $3.2 million a year, or
That's what I'm
something
saying. And then
crazy low.
and then
Like,
Kochetkov, you can keep as a third, or you could trade. You could do
flip
whatever
them.
you
You could
want with
flip them,
Kochetkov
yeah.
at that point. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we
He's in a
have a
good age
guy
too.
that's like untested in Miftakov, right? Like in
Absolutely, and
the
that becomes your
AHL.
third.
Yeah, exactly, man. I like the Wallstat idea a lot.
Yeah, if we could find a way to swing that trade, I firmly believe that would be such a maybe the most valuable pickup we could make in the offseason. And I think that's crazy to say, but I think it's true, especially when you consider like the long-term impact that might have for the Canes having a goalie at that level when they are so scarce right now.
Yeah,
Goalies are hard to find, and like they take a long time to develop. There's so many factors when you look at bringing in a guy like that. And to have a split, like you don't even he doesn't have to have the pressure of being a starter, and
yeah,
neither does Bussy. They can just split the net, and I think for like we said, where Bussy's like he's gonna. I think he's good, but you never know. It wouldn't be the first time a goalie's come in, been super hot, and then kind of fallen off. And to me, like that, you're ensuring a little bit of safety, you're providing a future, and you're getting an upgrade now. To me, it just makes so much sense.
agreed, agreed. All right, well, I think we've sort of talked through everything. We took a journey through recapping the parade. We broke down the trades that we've seen, the extension out of Buffalo for Benson, and then our sort of thoughts on the Canes situation ahead of the draft, and trades we'd like them to see. So I think we got through it. Any closing thoughts that you wanted to get out there?
I mean, I'm just excited to see what happens over the next couple days leading up to the draft, obviously, and then because I don't think we're done seeing moves. Um, but also, I am extremely excited to see the free agent market open up. I don't think there's too much that's actually interesting when you look at the unrestricted free agents, but the restricted, the restricted class this year is absolutely unbelievable, and it will be for the next couple years. And I I don't know. I think a lot of people believe teams are going to try to hold on to players, but the way the NHL is trending right now, and the way the Olympics has kind of shaken up the way players and teams keep relationships. I genuinely believe we're going to see some movement in the restricted free agent class, and I'm really excited to see what the Canes do. Do you think, I guess I have one final question for you. Do you think we will see any pre draft moves for the Hurricanes?
Ah, um, yes, but I think it would be like a multi-team trade that is moving around some picks. I don't know that it would be us getting a big name before the draft happens. I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm thoroughly excited to see when that ball drops, but I'm not too sure. I think really the only one that was quite surprising to me in that first crop of pre-draft trades was the Kachuk one. Um, but I think I'm excited for what comes next after the draft. If somehow and for some reason the Canes move up earlier in the draft and try to work something that route, I think that could be cool. Um, but I want to see them focus a young guy with NHL experience, and I think that comes after the draft. So that'll be my final answer.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be coming in with a post draft episode at some point next week,
Yeah, like
and
about
obviously
that.
covering any moves.
Yeah, I wanted to sort of
But
talk through and set up maybe some expectations for like the next episode, and like sort of how we're gonna do things in the off season. Obviously, we're gonna be able to do a little bit longer episodes and breakdowns like we did today. So shouts out us. It is our longest episode that we've done. Um, but also, I think maybe Wednesday nights are a good night to maybe hop on for a weekly pod, unless, of course, a major move happens. I think getting a live reaction or sort of instant reaction to that's a possibility. But I like the idea of having this time on a Wednesday night to talk through things on like a weekly basis, because I think it gives us lots to talk about. I don't know about you.
I agree. I 100% agree. So you heard it here, guys. Wednesdays, most likely you're gonna have us here weekly. I also want to shout out all not Hurricanes fans. I'm sure we're gonna be talking all kinds of hockey during the off season, so not just Canes related stuff, but all kinds of things. So feel free to tune in and enjoy. I'm sure there's gonna be some exciting content coming up.
100%. Even if it's coming in, tuning in to join and tell us we got something wrong about your favorite team. We're here for it. Call us dumb, call us stupid. We love it. We love to learn, but we also love to go back and forth and try to sort of look at what's going on across the whole NHL. I think one really cool thing about being a Canes fan is sort of having like the desire for the Canes to be like the center of attention for so long, is that now that they've done it, it does feel kind of cool to be able to get back to like a league-wide perspective, and see how everyone's playing nicely with each other, not nicely with each other, But yeah, so Wednesday nights, be on the lookout for us going live with the Storm Chasers, the Hockey podcast. And I think, Gino, if you don't have anything else, I'm gonna close this out here.
I mean, I'm really happy. I'm looking forward to the next week. So take us out.
Perfect. All right. As usual, if you're listening to us on Twitch or YouTube or Spotify, go ahead and follow us in whatever mechanism is allowed or helps you do that on those respective sites. And let us know what you thought of the episode. We are still wanting to put out there that we would love the idea of engagement with fans, and we want to interact and hear from you, and be your sort of first stop for the fan perspective on Carolina Hurricanes hockey in the NHL offseason. But yeah, be on the lookout for our next live stream Wednesday night, or if the Canes make a big move. But yeah, look forward to seeing y'all then. Have a good night.